First time in Hawaii, ready to tell stories, Pete Griffin!
Oh man, well this is a story, I'm from Alaska. My wife and I have lived there for the last 20 years, but I grew up in Michigan. Now it's in the lower 48 for us folks from Alaska, and I understand that here you call it the mainland. But you might remember from your elementary school geography, Michigan is the state that's kind of in the middle on the upper end, on the north end of the lower 48 states. But like Hawaii, Michigan doesn't have just one part. Michigan has two parts. This area, the mitten, is the lower peninsula, and I grew up in the upper peninsula, which is vastly different from the lower peninsula. See, in the upper peninsula, there weren't many people. There were very few roads, lots of forests and swamps and lakes. It was a wild place. We loved it there. Lower Michigan was people in cities and factories and suburbs and roads, not just one or two, but all over the place down there. So the folks in the lower peninsula kind of thought the folks on the upper peninsula, or the UP, were a little backward, a little socially underdeveloped, and that may be true. But my mother and dad raised their two kids, me and my younger sister, and they raised us with some values. Respecting people in uniform, respecting your teachers, respecting your elders. My dad worked construction during the summers, and he was laid off in the winters, drew on unemployment. My mother worked in the grocery stores in our small town of Cedarville, a population of 500. She worked as a teller in the bank. She was the editor of our local weekly paper for a number of years. So my folks were well known, very important parts of the community. Now in this, I graduated from high school. Age of 18, I knew everything. I had the world by the tail in a downhill drag. Now, I was going to go to college. That was kind of preordained. Yep, you're going to college. Well, there was a college about 35 miles away, and to get there, I needed a car. So my folks helped me go pick out a good used car. And we put it in my mother's name because, despite the fact that I was 18 years old and I knew everything, insurance companies didn't trust me. So we put the car in my mother's name. We got a break on the insurance. And so I used that to get back and forth to school. Now, one weekend late in the school year, I think it was in December sometime. No, it was November, I believe. I came home Friday night, pulled in, walked into the house, and my mother is sitting at the kitchen table. And she's got an envelope in her hand, and she's kind of tapping it like a police baton. And she greeted me not with a, hey, how'd it go? Did you learn anything new this year? Oh, no, I didn't learn anything new this week because I know everything already. It was, have you ever been to Lansing? Lansing was the state capital, way down here. No, I've never been to Lansing. I've never driven a car to Lansing. That is a big city. I don't do big cities. I don't do traffic. She said, did you ever loan your car to somebody who drove to Lansing? No, I don't loan my car to anybody. Absolutely not. Well, she said, well, how do you explain this letter? And she handed it to me, and I read it. Opened it up. Dear Mrs. Griffin, your car was cited for a parking violation in September of this year, and you failed to pay your fine. As such, we have established a court date for you in December. Your appearance is mandatory. Should you fail to appear, a warrant will be issued for your arrest. Your attention to this matter would be greatly appreciated. Signed, Roger Harris, Assistant Attorney, City of Lansing. I don't know how this happened, Mom. Honest, I have never been to Lansing. The car has never been to Lansing. And she gave me one of those looks, you know, that mothers will give you to figure out if you're lying or not. She gave me one of those looks, and apparently I passed. So next day, she has a letter all typed up. And she says, I'd like you to read this. So I read it. Dear Mr. Harris, just where do you get off frightening little old ladies from the UP half to death with your threats of court dates and arrest? I have never been to your city. My son who drives my car has never been to your city. I think a mistake has been made, and I suggest that you double check your records before proceeding any further. Signed, Eldith Griffin, mother, town of Cedarville. Well, I read that letter and Mom, I'm not sure this is really a good idea. She said, well, I wanted to get my point across, just how upset I was. Well, I think this will do it. And she took the letter back, and she says, I don't think it goes far enough. So she took a pen and she wrote across the bottom in big letters, P.S. You'll never take me alive. She mailed the letter. About 3 weeks later, here comes an official envelope from the city of Lansing. We open it up. Dear Mrs. Griffin, we don't normally go around scaring little old ladies from the UP half to death. For the most part, it's a little too cold and a little too dark up there for our comfort. Now, based on your kind suggestion, we did double check our records, and indeed we found a mistake had been made. The license tags were correct, but it was for a car registered in the state of New Mexico, not the state of Michigan. We apologize for any inconvenience this may have caused you. Signed, Roger Harris, Assistant Attorney, City of Lansing. P.S. Had it come to actually executing a warrant for your arrest, we'd like to think we could have avoided bloodshed because the City of Lansing has not hanged a parking violator since 1937. Now, Mom and Dad are gone now, but they left their kids a wonderful inheritance, and it isn't the kind of inheritance that allows you to go out and buy new trucks and boats and trips to Hawaii, but it's an inheritance that will stay with my sister and me for the rest of our lives. We respect people in uniform, we respect teachers, we respect our elders, and we also learned that a little bit of humor now and then can get you through a sticky spot. Thanks, Mom, and thank you for listening to my mother's story.
Give it to the man. Welcome him to Hawaii. Hi.